presentation today is going to be approximately 30 to 40 minutes, followed by a Q&A session, as Ben mentioned earlier. What I want to accomplish today is to just give you a basic understanding of the new 69 competencies that IOSH, the IOSH administration, with consultation, has so effectively put together. Let me start with just a general sort of thing that I think all of you know, but I'd just like to run through it in case we have people that are not members of IOSH that are part of us. Let's talk just a little bit very quickly about what is IOSH. Okay, we're the world's leading chartered professional body for people responsible for occupational safety and health and welfare in the workplace. We are a professional body, and being so, we're a non-profit organization. We have a royal charter. We act as a champion, an advisor, an advocate, and trainers for safety and health professionals working in all organizations and globally. Our focus is to support members and their efforts. And therefore, we can also say we're a membership organization. We have 47,000 members located in 130 different countries. And we want to create safe and healthy workplaces. We also try through research, through expertise, through understanding on occupational safety and health to be a thought leader and be actively involved, not only in the UK, but in other countries around the world, in what is going on in occupational safety and health. And we want to try to enable ourselves and other organizations around the world to excel in occupational safety and health. We're quite proud to focus on the fact that we're training around 180,000 individuals a year from 70 different countries in different programs in occupational safety and health. As I mentioned earlier, we're 47,000 people. We're in 130 different countries. And although most IOSH members are UK-based, there's also concentration of members in areas like Hong Kong, in countries like Singapore, Ireland, United Arab Republic, and India, and also proudly and truly enough in Switzerland as well. I think all of you have seen this slide before. I think it's an important slide because we talk about our vision as the Institution of Occupational Safety and Health, and our vision is a safe and healthy world of work. And with that, we have a strategy, what we call our 2022 strategy. We're looking to collaborate, we're looking to enhance, we're looking to influence people within the scope of the profession. And with that, there are 6 priorities that the institution is focusing on: non-health related fatalities, occupational cancer, musculoskeletal disorders, rehabilitation at work, human capital, and mental health and well-being. So this is all under the scope of this idea, or under the heading of this idea of enhancing the profession. Now, I'm sure all of you are witnesses to the dramatic speed in change that we're all seeing in the world today. And a lot of these changes are impacting on us as safety and health practitioners, as safety and health professionals. There are changes in the work that we do. There are changes in the tasks and the way workers are doing them. Even the definition of the workplace is changing. We're expanding beyond the concept of a physical premises to include anywhere the worker goes to perform their duties. We're looking at demographic changes. We're seeing people moving to urban centers. We're seeing an aging population. We're seeing different generations with different philosophies. For example, the millennials have an increased sense of purpose in how they choose their careers and the employers to work for. We're also seeing technological changes. We're seeing in industry automation, digitalization, and a hyper-connected workforce. We're also seeing organizational changes. For example, we've all heard about the gig economy, where we have workers or workforces working on flexible contract. And obviously, we're seeing social political changes. We're seeing the issues of globalization, Brexit, politics, bankruptcy of social security systems, changes in thoughts of government. It's pretty well documented, but we know the world of work is transforming and throwing new challenges at organizations. And we as an organization know that we need to adapt. We need to adapt the institution of occupational safety and health, but on an individual basis, we also need to be able to keep up with what's going on around us if we're going to be effective in our work. There was a white paper published in 2018 by IOSH, and it demonstrated how businesses are responding with a more strategic approach to occupational safety and health and well-being. The publication, called The Healthy Profit, is the IOSH's report on business benefits enjoyed by organizations that invest in safety, health, and well-being of their people. It touches on many things, but probably the most important message is that it gives the idea that good health and safety is an investment and not a cost. It also talks about the fact that employers should be responsible and that employment should be sustainable, and that safety and health of the workforce is now an integral part of success. That translates into the idea that health and safety is a strategic concern. And in this Healthy Profit publication, there's a call to action, and that is to make investment in health and safety of their workplaces at every level integral to their corporate strategies and their cultures. So for our part, as safety and health practitioners, we need a profession that has business acumen, that the leadership and influencing skills, the competencies to help business embed good health, safety, and well-being in their strategies and in their cultures is present. So part of what we're thinking about, and I apologize if this may be a little hard to read for some of you, is how are organizations responding to these changes? And if you look at the vertical axis, we're looking at people, we're looking at line management, leadership, we're looking at expert functions, we're looking at employee engagement. And if you look at the horizontal axis, we're looking at systems. And what we're seeing is we're seeing movement from line managers to safety leaders, from technical experts to safety coaches, from reactive to proactive, collectively driven behaviors. And from an organizational perspective, we're moving from fragmented practices to harmonized processes, from isolated systems to solution platforms, and from lagging to leading key performance indicators. So these are all things that are happening. I don't think we have control over what is happening economically, but we do have a certain degree of control of how we are adjusting ourselves to that. Now, one of the things that we're looking at is what is known as the competency framework. It was launched in November 2019 as a professional standard for safety and health at work. If you feel you know these competencies, if you feel you understand these competencies, I'm going to ask you to take the poll and press the number 1. If you don't feel comfortable as far as these competencies are concerned, please press the number 2. This should be in front of you now. Please go ahead and activate the poll, and I will simply continue with the presentation that you'll do it. Ben will leave the poll up for another minute or 2. So I'd like you to think a little bit and think about how perhaps you've come into the profession of occupational safety and health, and what your organization, the people you work for, has traditionally demanded from you and your function. and how it's changing. It used to be for a long time that we would just deliver technical expertise. But now, considering what's going on in the world of work, we really need to understand more the impact of safety and health on the organization and how to report on the return to business. So we're looking at a return on investment. We're looking at, we continue to look at the traditional fields of responsibility on safety, on occupational health, hygiene, fire, environment, and quality. But we also now have evolving areas of responsibility. And these include wellness, including mental health, which is a very big and important issue today, psychosocial risks, corporate social responsibility, safeguarding, sustainability, and human capital. We have to be able to respond as professionals, and we need to make sure that we prepare not only ourselves, but also the professionals for the future. So with these traditional and new responsibilities, we need to ensure that we are competent. We also need to ensure that the membership of IOSH is competent, that we truly reflect what the profession needs to be able to put forward. And this is why IOSH has looked to develop a more well-rounded occupational safety and health profession by strengthening competencies. We did some benchmarking, and the benchmarking looked at the competency frameworks within our sector, occupational safety and health, as well as other sectors, to ensure basically that we were creating a framework which drives standards to levels to which they're aligned with other chartered bodies. The research has led us to conclude that all areas of IOSH competency framework need to evolve to address the broader scope of occupational safety and health, as I was sharing with you, and the growing demand for professionals to complement their technical skills with soft business skills. You may have to focus a little bit on this particular slide, but basically we did some research, and based on that research, we're determining to a certain extent what occupational safety and health professionals need. So, for example, the first point is health and safety is becoming more complex and spans many other disciplines. We're becoming more reliant on science and technology. I'm not going to read the list to you, but we know that organizations and professionals need to work as equal partners in the boardroom. And I'm seeing this both professionally as well as personally, this move away from a back office approach to health and safety to more having partnerships at a leadership or a boardroom level. And therefore, we need a breadth of knowledge. We need to be more innovative and agile. We need to understand different cultures and practices, as well as technical legislation. We need to be solution providers and not business blockers. And we need to be able to have the wherewithal to be able to take up opportunities. So let me share with you just it's a couple of videos embedded in this. This is a video where they interviewed a gentleman from Thames Water that talks a little bit about the competency framework.
Over the last 10 years, I have seen such a staggering change within organisations. The modern day professional is actually being asked a lot more in terms of the demands and pressures on themselves within business, the demands and pressures within society. Reflecting in that is our ability to understand better leadership, competency, engagement, communication. Being an inspector of sites and an investigator of incidents is no longer enough. We have to be strategically aligned into the operating model of the organization, and we actually have to be making a significant difference. We need to be sat at the different tables at board level, at executive level, at managerial level, and working very closely with operatives and employees so we are making a profound difference within the organizations that we serve and support. Because let's face it, as an IOSH professional, health and safety professionals, we generally have no budget, we have no resource, and therefore we have no authority. Our greatest skill is our ability to communicate, and when we do it well, we can have an immense impact across the organisation. So the competency framework is a game changer for the profession. It provides the skills, competencies and behaviours the modern day IOSH professional needs, and it's been based on research that IOSH has undertaken over a plethora of different sectors and industries, speaking to a wide variety of professionals. It is going to make quite a significant impact not only on your individual professional development but also on your teams. Have a look, see how you can benefit, and your organisation will benefit also.
I think we're beginning to understand, I think as safety and health professionals, we understand that no matter from what perspective we've come into the profession from, that there are gaps, and we need to understand what those gaps are. In business, we're constantly doing gap analysis. And gap analysis is important because not only do we identify where the gaps are, but we understand we need to build an understanding of how we can fill some of these gaps. So a number of years ago, just about when I was starting with IOSH, they started to build, the administration started to build with consultation what was known as the blueprint framework. And I'm going to call this the first blueprint framework, where opportunities looked into the effects of a strong occupational safety and health culture, and what were the competencies necessary to be able to build that, to understand where we are, to understand where we want to go, to understand how both the individual and the workplace benefits from occupational safety and health, and how we can contribute to that. So I guess the important thing that we need to really think about, we need to focus on, is being able to provide direction for ourselves by identifying the gaps and finding ways of filling those gaps. And one of the most effective and powerful ways that we see across different organizations is through using a continuing professional development by seminars, by webinars such as this, to be able to strengthen and fill some of these gaps. So let's take a look at this concept today of the of the competency framework. So we've updated the competency framework from in the past. In the past, we had a competency framework that consisted of 27 competencies. But today, with what's happening in the world, the changes in the world today, we realize that we need more competencies. So we moved from 27 to 69 competencies. And the competencies are divided into 3 areas. First one is technical, the second one is core, and the third one is behavioral. Now, we also understand that not everyone can meet all of the different 69 competencies to a certain degree of profound or depth. There are certain competencies where we will touch on in our profession. There's certain areas that we need to have deep knowledge within the profession. But I'd like to share with you, within these 3 technical areas, the 12 subheadings, if you like. And in the 12 headings, I'm going to touch on some of the 69 competencies. So the first heading under the 12 areas is health and safety law. Now, in health and safety law, obviously in the jurisdiction that we're working in, where our work is taking place, We need to understand what the legislative framework is. We need to understand not only the principles of health and safety, but what is health and safety governance under the eyes of the law. It's different perhaps in the UK than in other countries because there's a system of law. For example, in continental Europe, they're under a Napoleonic code of law. In the UK and in the United States, it's a common law system. But all of this needs to sort of be part of what we do as safety and health professionals. We also need to understand safety and health management systems and the sort of things that have been proposed. For example, the ISO management systems that are currently in place. The second category that I'd like to share with you is risk management. I think most of us are fairly strong in risk identification and risk profiling, but we also need to analyze, we need to prioritize, we need to be able to control risks, mitigate risks, and at the same time build resilience. So we need to build health and safety into also the business risk process. The third area, again, this comes as no surprise, is incident management. If there is an incident, can the company effectively manage it? What is our role as safety and health professionals in incident management? What about incident reporting? How is it reported? And to what extent do we learn from that? Can we support a strong legal defense? The fourth category is culture. And culture, in my mind, in my career, has been a big thing. There needs to be a firm organizational culture on safety and health. And in my previous role as the chair of the Fire Risk Management Group, one of the things that I felt very strongly about also was to ensure that we had a fire safety culture that was integrated into an occupational safety and health culture, which in turn needs to be integrated into the corporate culture. We also need to look under the scope of culture at ideas like vulnerable workers, employee welfare, health and safety competence, as well as how do we treat people that are external to the company that come and visit, contractors, visitors, suppliers. And in some parts of the world, some companies actually have a childcare facility. All of these things come under this concept of a culture. Another area which I think which is extremely important is our interface, our company's interface, our organization's interface with the environment. And many of us have the title of a safety, health, and environmental officer or an EHS officer. And this whole idea of sustainability, the interface with the community, and ethical business practices are part of the competencies that are linked to sustainability. Now, another category are the core competencies. And the first one is strategic. We need to look at our strategic development. We need to look at both the internal and the external business context. We need to look at diversity. We need to look at inclusion. We also need to look at knowledge management and learning the organization and how we can help people learn as part of it from a strategic perspective. And linked to strategy is obviously planning and implementation, and linked to decision-making, linked to financial management, linked to data analysis. All of that comes under the scope of planning. And these phrases that I'm using, this is just a sampling of the 69 core competencies, or the 69 competencies that are part of the competency framework. And the next one is leadership and management. I think over the past 15, 20 years, we're seeing management become more and more involved in safety and health. They understand the importance of it, but management needs to be functional. Leadership needs to be visible. We hope that the CEO, the managing director, even the board of directors are out in the workshop, they're out in the field actually promoting occupational safety and health and not just talking about it. We're looking at teamwork. We're looking at project management, and an important element of leadership and management is being able to manage change effectively so that we don't create problems in the workplace. The last category is behavioral. And from a behavioral perspective, we need to be able to manage our stakeholders. We need to manage personal competence. We need to be able to be a trusted advisor and be able to be engaged in problem solving. We need to effectively communicate. And part of that is active listening. I think many times when we're seeing in our own workplaces that there is a stressful situation, or there has been a situation that is uncomfortable, sometimes we find that people don't know how to actively listen. They don't know how to engage. They don't know where to turn when there is a problem. We also have the idea of personal performance. We're looking at personal responsibilities. We're looking at self-motivation and discipline. We're looking at prioritizing work and be able to deal with that. And finally, the idea of stakeholder management. How do we collaborate? How do we negotiate? How does this whole thing work together? So 69 competencies. You can find these online. You can also, I will give you shortly a contact if you wish to have more detail about these 69 competencies. But these 69 competencies are an actionable set of standards. So they help us identify what our needs are, which can be used alongside of continuing professional development courses, from white papers, from books, to courses that you might take at an institution if you're moving in toward a university degree, or if you're moving toward a technical degree somewhere. These are things that we will be sharing with our partners in IOSH to be able to strengthen and build this across the world. We know that each individual's development needs are different depending on their role, depending on their responsibilities, depending on their aspirations and what sector they're in. And as I mentioned earlier, no one should expect to be proficient in all of the competencies. But you as occupational safety and health, we as occupational safety and health professionals, I should say, should be able to use the competency framework to identify the gaps, what our needs are. And in fact, as we speak, IOSH is building a change to the blueprint, which will be Blueprint 2, which will be coming sometime later on this year, to be able to help us assess our competencies and also to fit continuing professional development in such a way that we can identify our weaknesses and we know how to move forward. Also, the competency framework becomes a useful reference tool for academic institutions, for employers, for recruiters, and for others as people move in or strengthen themselves within the profession. One of the things that I'm quite proud of, and I hope you are as well, and that is that IOSH is taking a major step forward in looking at the young professional coming into what we're trying to do, how we're trying to move forward. We just recently introduced a new category of membership, which is called student membership, which offers career development opportunities to people that are newly coming into the profession, who are working as students, who are perhaps doing some apprenticeships, or doing some focus on this. We also have had a conference recently about the future leaders community, which are taking some of these young people and moving forward with them. We're designing events over the next 18 months tailored to the relevant content of the competency framework for individuals at different stages of their career. I guess for too long, we've probably been focusing only on the technical expertise we need. But as we start to move forward and work more and more with management, we need to start to focus a little bit on the business skills, the soft skills. We need to learn the right behaviors and the right language that the boardroom can understand. And this is one of the reasons why IOSH has recently developed a new qualification, what's affectionately known as the Level 3 qualification, which is safety and health in business, which will help people in the management level fairly rapidly come to terms with and understand more effectively occupational safety and health. So in summary, the safety and health profession has played such an important role in shaping the modern workplace, but it now must do more to meet the needs of the organization as they respond to rapid changes in things like technology and working practices. We need a profession that's more influential in business, helping it shape the strategy and helping it shape the culture. And through our enhanced concept, one of the three elements that we talked about earlier, IOSH will help the profession raise to this challenge. So I'm going to just share with you another very quick video. Duncan Spencer is head of advice and practice for IOSH, and he's a safety and health practitioner who's come into IOSH to work professionally. And I want to share with you a little bit his views on this.
It helps the sector because it enables people to be able to look into the future as well as the past. So a competency framework quite often is built on, so what have I done till now, which gives me the experience and the knowledge that is necessary to be able to do my present job role. What the competency framework needs to do as well is it needs to lead people to be able to build the skills they will need in the future. So that's why we talk about, in the sense of applying a competency framework, we talk about capability, because we're trying to build the capability of people now so that they can face the challenges of the future in a much more knowledgeable and skilled way.
So I'd like to move just to a second poll. We've tried to give you a little bit of the context of the new competency framework with the 69 competencies. Obviously, we couldn't go line by line with each of the competencies that we talk about. You can do this on your own in the future if you like, or we can talk about it perhaps in another forum where we'd have a lot more time. But the question that we would like to ask is, as a result of this webinar, do you feel you have a better understanding of the new competency framework, how it's situated for safety and health at work? I'm going to let you respond to this. And I'd like to say thank you for your time. I also would like to just simply put up in front of you a email address that I just received. This is a new email address. So if you have questions about the framework or you want to find out more about it, there's an email address within IOSH, which is adviceandpractice@iosh.com.